Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, entitled The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev. I am very grateful to be with all of you again, Sri Radha Gopinath Temple. Thank you for coming. Bhishma, one of the great Mahajans. Mahajan means the highest authorities in understanding the truth, who by their words and their lives exemplify, personify the way in which we should live within this world and the way we see. We see God, we see ourselves, we see others, and also how we see the workings of material nature. Bhagavad Gita explains these 5 truths. Ishvara, the supreme controller, the origin of everything that exists. In the West, he is called God. Ishvara, the Sanskrit word, describes the supreme controller of all controllers. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Lord Brahma, who is also a Mahajan, the original guru of each universe, is explaining Ishvara. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna, who is the source of everything, is the cause of all causes. His form, his pastimes, his holy names, his abode are Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. This Sat, or eternal feature of the Lord, is very important to understand. The second element is the jiva, or the living entity, who is mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana, eternally part and parcel of Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his teachings that are recorded in our scriptures, his most exhaustive and elaborate teachings were spoken to Sri Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi. For 2 months he spoke, throughout the day, every day. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami summarized it in many chapters of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he built all of his teachings on a simple foundation. The very basis of the beginning of all knowledge, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is Jivara Swarupoi Krishnera Nitya Das. That the living entity is by nature an eternal servant of Krishna. This eternality is so important for us to understand. That the living being, every living being, the jiva is eternal. Satchit Ananda. But when the living entity, when the spirit soul, by free will, chooses, rather than to serve the Lord, which is our constitutional nature, when we want to separately enjoy, when we come under the influence of Prakriti, the third principle that Krishna teaches in the Gita. What is Prakriti? The scriptures and the acharyas teach us that the Lord primarily has three energies. There is the Antaranga Shakti, the Jiva Shakti, and Bahiranga Shakti. The spiritual energy of the Lord, where everything is in truth understood as Satchit Ananda. Where there is, just in the spiritual energy, everything is fully conscious, fully realized of the truth of themselves, of God, and of every other living being. The spiritual energy, there is the Brahma Jyoti, the eternal effulgence of the Lord, and within the spiritual energy there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. It's quite inconceivable to understand. To try to understand God with our own intelligence is impossible. Who is God? Material nature is just an insignificant aspect of God, of Ishvara, Krishna. This one little tiny earth planet is but a speck of the universe. There are so many planets within this universe. We look in the stars in the sky. It's baffling how many, and that's just what we are seeing lit up. There are innumerable planets in the universe, and there are innumerable universes in the cosmic manifestation. Innumerable means they can't even be counted. They're not just in the hundreds or the thousands or the millions or the billions. There are innumerable universes within this cosmic manifestation. And beyond the cosmic manifestation with the Brahma Jyoti, there are innumerably more Vaikuntha planets. The impersonal philosophers, their goal of liberation is to enter into the Brahma Jyoti, into that absolutely pure spiritual energy of the Lord, where there is no suffering, there is no birth, there is no death, there is no ignorance. There's just pure existence. And the devotees, their desire is to enter into the Vaikuntha, the abodes of the Lord, where the Lord is eternally existing in one of his unlimited manifested forms to enjoy pastimes or lila with all of us. Some impersonal or Mayavad philosophers, they challenge. What is this about an eternal abode of the Lord? What do you do there? how can all little living beings be there? And what do you do? Just look at Vishnu all day? But this is trying to understand Vaikuntha in the same way we try to understand material nature. Krishna is inconceivable. Krishna is unlimited. God is one. But how incredible that one God expands in every Vaikuntha planet as a unique transcendental personality. And he's still the same, one person. And there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets where he's Narayan, Ram, Narsingha, Vamana. And there are innumerable devotees in each Vaikuntha planet because the Vaikuntha planets are massive. They're unlimited in size. This is Krishna. And each one of us, we are eternal. And we have a choice, either to participate in the eternal pastimes of the Lord in the spiritual realm, or to come into Prakriti, or the material existence. In the material existence, everything is ultimately controlled by time. And what does that mean when we hear that everything is controlled by time? That means everything except the soul itself. The soul is imperishable. Krishna tells us in the Gita, Nahanyate hanyamane sarire. The soul cannot be burnt by fire, moistened by water, cannot be touched by any weapon. How incredible, any weapon. In days of past, the weapons were clubs and bows and arrows. And later, bullets and guns and machine guns. And then there were bombs, atomic bombs. Now there are nuclear bombs. And scientists are ever working overtime to somehow or other create more subtle and more powerful bombs. But it's a weapon. Krishna says no weapon can even touch the soul. Can't even put a little scar. If an atomic bomb drops right on somebody's head, nuclear bomb, a bomb that has the power to destroy an entire country, if they ever make such a bomb. If it lands right on your head, ground zero. It cannot even put the slightest little cut on the soul. Because the soul is of a different nature. It's transcendental. It's eternal. It doesn't die when the body dies. But this material body, because it's under the influence of time, which is the fourth factor within Bhagavad Gita's teachings, everything inevitably is destroyed. Therefore, the scripture tells us the material existence is Marja Loka. It's a planet of death. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartanorjana mamupejita kunteya punar janmana vidyate. From the highest planet of Brahmaloka down to the lowest Patala. Still, everything is controlled by time, which means everything is destined to be destroyed. Apare amitastvanyam. Krishna explains material existence in this way. Bhumir apo nalo vayu kamanor buddharevacha ahankara iti yame bina prakritirashtata. The nature of Prakriti is it is always changing. There's nothing stable within material existence. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. All physical elements are composed of these 5 basic elements and the various combinations. And then there is the mind, the intelligence, and the ego. These things can be tremendously affected by physical circumstances, but they cannot be destroyed by material circumstances. But ever changing. Every cell in the body is constantly changing. Every atomic particle is changing. This is the influence of time. And the next factor of the Gita is karma, the law of actions and reactions. The Gita teaches there's karma, akarma, vikarma. Karma is proper action according to the codes of morality. Vikarma, though karma, the reaction of good karma is we get pleasant, favorable results. Vikarma means sinful acts, where we get unfavorable, painful reactions, suffering. And then there is akarma, that gets no material reaction. That means our actions are engaged in the loving service of the Lord. So how, within this material existence, Bhishma is explaining that the Pandavas, they didn't do vikarma. They didn't even do karma. They were doing akarma. They were great devotees of the Lord, especially Yudhisthira Maharaj. It's really incredible. Maharaj Yudhisthira, up until Krishna tricked him and forced him, he never said a lie in his life. And even then, he kind of didn't even do it. How many of you have never spoken a lie in your life? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands. But think about it. How controlled was Yudhisthira? He never spoke a lie. He never did anything that was deliberately immoral. You know, you may say, why did he gamble? But according to he was a Kshatriya, and he was being challenged to do so. And according to the Kshatriya codes of honor, you cannot refuse a challenge. That was, again, his stature. From one perspective, he never should have done it. But from another perspective, it was his duty. And he was so pious that previous to his coming to meet Bhishma, the reason Krishna brought him to meet Bhishma, he was such a devotee, he was so humble, that he took the responsibility for all the bloodshed and death of the Battle of Kurukshetra. He was willing to take the full responsibility. He was willing to say it was all my fault. And that's what he was saying, even though none of it was his fault. He was taking the blame for what he didn't do. It was all Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra's fault. They were personifications of vikarma. And here, Yudhisthira Maharaj is telling Krishna and others that all these innocent ladies are widows because of me. All these little children are fatherless because of me. All these warriors are dead or wounded because of me, just so that I could become the king. Such a devotee. He felt every one of his citizens was his own child. That's how he loved everyone. That's how he ruled the world, by Krishna's grace. He was willing to give his life for an insect. We see his son, his nephew, Parikshit, who was trained by Yudhisthira Maharaj. When he became king, how he was traveling around the whole world to make sure even the most innocent, helpless creatures were protected. Such a person. Yudhisthira was so pious, he was so pure, he was so devoted that Krishna himself used to bow to him. Krishna considered like an elder cousin brother. Arjuna was like an equal peer to Krishna, but Yudhisthira Maharaj, Krishna accepted as a superior. Krishna ran messages for Yudhisthira, like his messenger. He was Arjuna's charioteer, and he was Yudhisthira's messenger, taking words to Duryodhana and others, words of truth, words of wisdom. So Bhishma here is seeing Yudhisthira standing before him as he's laying in a bed of arrows. Bhishma was a Mahajan. He actually was looking forward to death because he understood how this world works. There are so many atrocities, even to good people. So this is something that Bhishma Dev is expressing to us. Yudhisthira didn't do any vikarma, he didn't do any bad karma, nor did Kunti. And whatever mistakes they may have made, it was never with animosity or enmity for others. This is where real bad karma is. When we have enmity in our heart, when we want to cause pain or hurt others. Yudhisthira never had that. So why? Why Kunti and the Pandavas had to suffer so bad? First, their father died. Then they were under the custody of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, his son, and they hated them. From their childhood, they wanted them exterminated because they saw them a threat to their own rule. This was Duryodhana's mentality. He was so deeply envious. And why is it in this world that envious, wicked people sometimes win over, or for some time, the pious? Ravana stole Sita, and he had her for almost a full year. They were fed poison, humiliated. And here Bhishma's looking at Yudhisthira. How did it happen to you? You didn't deserve any of this. And your own sons were killed. They were great devotees. Abhimanyu was very, very dear to Krishna. Krishna loved Abhimanyu. All the Pandavas loved Abhimanyu. He wasn't a wicked, sinful person. Why did he have to die? And the 5 sons of Draupadi, the son of Yudhisthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadev, she had a son for each of them. And they were all mercilessly murdered in their sleep. They didn't even have a chance to fight. Aswatthama massacred them. Why? Krishna loved them. The Pandavas loved them. How is this happening? And the suffering of Subhadra. Interesting, Subhadra is the Yogamaya, the spiritual potency of the Lord. Yet when Abhimanyu was killed, her own son, she was weeping excessively. And Arjuna, his father, was deeply affected. Bhima is asking, how could this happen? And then he's giving the answer. In the future verses, he tells, even the greatest philosophers, the greatest sages, the greatest rishis cannot understand exactly how things happen and why within this material nature. Because the power of time. Time is the manifestation of Krishna within creation. And how is it? Why is it called the manifestation of Krishna? Because within material existence, time is the Ishvara. Time is controlling everything. Nothing, no one can escape for a moment. Just think about time, how inconceivable it is. It's an energy. If we think about it that way, growing old is blissful. We're being molded by Krishna's energy and everything. The sun is rising by the power of time and it is setting. The moon is waxing and waning. The seasons are coming and going. And with every moment, everything is ultimately being destroyed. Is that bad? Is that destruction bad? It's natural. This beautiful garland of Vrindavan Keli Kadamba flowers that I have been given, they are so nectarine and fragrant. Everyone has their personalities and their natures. Some people like roses and some people like jasmine. But personally, the most sweet fragrance in all of creation that I have found is the Vrindavan Kadamba flower. The Bengali Kadamba flowers are very beautiful, but I have not seen such fragrance. It's incredible. I'm too much attached to this guy. But it's Mahaprasad, so dovetailing my attachments. But even this most sweet, ambrosial, intoxicating, unbelievable, indescribable Kadamba flower fragrance, in a day or so, it's going to just shrivel up and have no fragrance. Isn't that wonderful? And then a new Kadamba flower will grow. In the spiritual world, Kadamba flowers are eternal. In the spiritual world, a kadamba garland like this, its fragrance increases day by day, year by year, millennium by millennium. Forever, ever increasing. That is the difference between material nature and spiritual nature. Because in the spiritual world, the destructive, debilitating nature of time doesn't exist. Rather, time exists in the spiritual world in a completely opposite way. Everything is ever increasing in beauty and sweetness and love, because that's the way Krishna is. It's not time, it's something very different. If the great Mahajan Bhishma, on behalf of all the great Mahajans, Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Kapila, Shukadev, Yamaraj, Swayambhu Manu, all of these and more of these greatest of sages, they cannot understand the inconceivable workings within material existence. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Everything is temporary. You see, we are taught when we come to Krishna consciousness, we're not taught that by developing love for Krishna, by hearing his glories, chanting his names, associating with his devotees, that material nature changes. Material nature is material nature. It's working in inconceivable ways. There are the laws of karma, which we try to follow. But the laws of karma are limited. They affect happiness and distress in this life. They affect our next life, what kind of life we're going to take, whether it's a lower species like a rat or a cat or this or that, whatever it may be. Could be a fish, a chopeti. Little fishermen that go out with their nets. There's so many varieties of life, and that's all due to karma. But whatever our karma may be, however pious we are, we have to suffer. That's material existence. That is why when Krishna comes to this world, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, again and again and again, he's telling us, no matter how pious you are, no matter how good you are, you have to suffer. That's material existence, because everything is under the control of time. You have to grow old, you have to get diseased, you have to die. And Govinda Das was a very, very pure, pious devotee, a personal associate of Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Narottam Das Thakur. He wrote this beautiful prayer. Edana yojana putra parijana ite kiyache padati tire kamala dala jala jivana talamala bhajahun hari padani tire. It's in every scripture. It's a predominant theme of the Gita, of the Bhagavatam. And he's expressing it all in such a poetic way that everything within this material creation, everything, our body, our life, all of our relatives, all of our possessions, all of our skills that we work so hard for, everything It's all like a drop of water on a leaf of a lotus. Material existence is like a leaf of a lotus. And everything material is like the drops of water. At any moment, it slips away. That's the nature of this world. Bhajahun Hari Padani today. Therefore we worship Lord Hari. So important. Because although everything in this world is uncertain, padam padam yad vipadam natesham. This means whether we're pious or impious, whether we're pure devotees, neophyte devotees, or atheists, there's danger at every step in this world. What's the difference between a non-devotee and a devotee? In that same situation where there's danger at every step, where suffering or death could come at any moment, for anyone, whoever we are, especially in this fragile earth planet, in Kali Yuga. In Satya Yuga there was a little more certainty about things. But Kali Yuga is an age where things go wild. There's so little certainty. Kalero dosani de rajanastehe kamahan guna. Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. But there's one benediction. That simply chanting the names of Lord Hari Krishna, we can attain supreme liberation. So this padam padam yadvi padam natesham, for a devotee, we understand we're seeking the realization of the eternal soul. And the dangers of material existence are actually an impetus to help us take shelter of Krishna, to take our spiritual lives very seriously. And although everything is uncertain within material existence, there is one thing that is absolutely 100% certain. That Krishna is always there to reciprocate with the love of his devotee. At whatever level of Krishna consciousness we're on, Krishna is there for us. And when Krishna tells that he's there for us, he's talking about our eternal souls. Whatever may happen in this material existence, Krishna will be there. In life and in death. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram. Krishna says, one who, according to what we remember at the time of death, we will attain. And those who are sincere to remember Krishna, to serve Krishna, to please Krishna in life, we know that Krishna is going to be with them in life and in whatever situation happens. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains there are different ways of dying in this world. There are auspicious ways and inauspicious ways. But the auspicious and inauspicious is for people who are of karma kanda. But for a devotee, these things are irrelevant. It doesn't matter how it happens, when it happens, or where it happens. For a devotee, Krishna is always there. For a devotee, life and death are all auspicious. All auspicious doesn't mean that the body is in a pleasing situation. All auspicious means that the soul is being connected with Krishna. The soul is being blessed with its eternal nature once again, is being uplifted. Krishna promises. Srila Prabhupada promised us that if we're just sincere about our Krishna consciousness, then Krishna will be there in our life. Krishna will be there in our inevitable death. So therefore, when sincere, loving devotees, or even those who are near and dear to sincere and loving devotees, we should know when they pass from this world, time is like that. My father, who many of you know, he's 88. And he tells me, he has a very clear memory by the Lord's grace. He has good memory. He remembers things. And he talks about things he did when he was 4 or 5 years old. He likes to tell stories about when he was a little boy and the trouble he used to get into, different religious ceremonies he was in. He has one of my uncles, is his age, only 6 months younger. And every Wednesday they meet and have lunch together. And sometimes I join them when I'm there, and they just talk about those days when they were little children together. And they just can't, they just look at their bodies like, what happened? It's like a minute ago I was a little child, and now look at this. It's quite incredible watching them talk together. Because when they talk about their teenage years and their childhood years, it was like it was a few minutes ago. And that's what it feels like to them. How did 88 years pass like this? They can't believe they have these old bodies and all the stuff going wrong. And did they do anything wrong to get old bodies? Everybody gets old, yes? Sometimes people think that that's a great accomplishment in life, to live long enough to get old. That's something very great. But it's only a few seconds from a higher perspective of time. Shukadev Goswami says, better one moment of full consciousness, one moment of love for Krishna, devotion to Krishna, better one moment of just desiring to please Krishna with all our heart than to live for hundreds and hundreds of years. There are trees. That one tree, the Norwegian spruce tree in Sweden, 9,500 years. Same jiva. One little jivatma has been in that tree for 9,500 years. And it's really cold there, Sweden, in the winter. Hare Krishna. But from a demigod's perspective, it's like a few seconds. From our perspective, it's a long time. Prahlad was only 5. Dhruva was only 5 when they realized Krishna. So yes, sometimes, we think, why does Krishna do this to people? It's not like that. Material nature, time. Krishna's the ultimate controller of time. But Krishna's not necessarily directly involved in the workings of Prakriti. time is working in very inconceivable ways. And we have our free will. If we choose to do something in a certain way, then something may happen. Where does Krishna come in? Krishna comes in not necessarily in the actions and reactions of material existence. Krishna is there to reciprocate with our Atma, with our soul. When we offer a flower to the deity, Krishna accepts it. When we offer our sincerity as we're chanting his holy name, Krishna's accepting it. And what's happening? The ignorance of the ego is being removed. The attachment to the body is being removed. The attachment to the things of the world is being removed. And the attachment to Krishna is awakening. The attachment to the souls of every living being is being awakened. And therefore, in life or death, anyone who turns to Krishna, Krishna is there. And that is all auspicious. That is beautiful. That is wonderful. And this was Bhishma's realization in this particular verse. This is all due to inevitable time, under whose control everyone and every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. When Lord Chaitanya was just a small boy, suddenly his father got a fever and died. Happened really quick. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was Nimai. He was weeping and crying over the death of his father. Because that's how things are. We should weep and cry when the body of a dear one is gone. But those tears should be offerings of our gratitude and love. Those tears should be offerings of prayer for our beloved ones. They shouldn't be tears that are simply leaving us in a void of depression. Because the Atma is with Krishna for a devotee. The Atma is with Krishna for anyone dear to a devotee. That's Krishna's infinite love, Krishna's infinite compassion. He will never let any devotee's Atma be lost if they turn to him with sincere devotion. And we have so many beautiful stories in that regard. Srivas, his son died, and Lord Chaitanya brought him to life, and he instructed the whole world through his words that I'm the eternal soul. These bodies are coming and going and coming and going and coming and going, and how they come and how they go, that's a great mystery. But one thing is for sure, my Lord, those who chant your names with sincere devotion will come to you.